My name is Cathy Rouhier. I am the teen support group leader in Dayton. So my presentation is going to be on leading the teen and children's support groups. A little bit about me. I am a literacy coach at Summit Academy in Dayton. We specialize with kids with ADHD, autism. We actually have a few families with EDS at our school. So that's been interesting the past couple years since I've learned about my own EDS to work with those families as well and work with the teachers. Before becoming a literacy coach, I was an intervention specialist in the K-1 room at Summit for 4 years. I'm married to my high school sweetheart, Andrew. We've been married almost 8 years. My spare time, I enjoy traveling, reading. I play volleyball. I wear about 10 braces when I play volleyball, don't worry. I go to a lot of concerts, and I love writing too. So how do you get a teen group started? So these are going to be established in cooperation with the adult groups. It's almost going to be like a subset of the adult group. So you're really going to want to reflect on Andrea's presentation about being a support group leader, because these are going to really go hand in hand. Of course, working with kids, it's going to be a lot different than adults. So this is really going to go into how to work with kids and the different challenges that go with working with the kids and the teens. So the first bullet point has been the most challenging for me personally, and it's having a co-leader. Preferably, you want one without a chronic illness. Not that you can't have one because life happens, but they're going to be able to be more available for you. So when I started out last year, I was really excited to get the group going again. The first 4 or 5 months were great. We had activities every month. We had kids showing up, and it was wonderful. But then I hit a rough spot with my EDS, and then the group fell by the wayside, and it's been a challenge trying to get it going again. So Andrew and I talked about what we could do, and one thing that we talked about was getting that co-leader with you, because they're going to be able to keep you accountable, and they can take over if you have challenges yourself. The next thing you're going to do is have a game plan. So we also sat down and talked about what's going to work for us for the year. So we decided what we need to do is plan out the whole year in advance. For us, we were going to alternate social activities and meetings. You might want to have just all meetings, want to have all social events. That's going to be up to you and what your group needs. And that's not to say plans can't change, because issues might come up. You might have a fun social event that's happening. But if you have that year planned in advance, it's going to save you so much stress and headache when you get going. Again, what are your goals for your group? You do want to have discussion, social activities. No matter what your goal is, you want to create a safe environment for kids and teens to be in. This is a place that they should feel comfortable and look forward to coming to every month. So for this presentation, I'm going to focus on the in-person meetings. These can be separate from your adult meetings, or they can be the same day. If it's the same day as your adult meeting, look at your space, see if there's a spot that the kids can go to. Maybe they'll be in a different room, a different part of the room. It's just going to depend on the space that you have. And I realize I haven't had a lot of experience with these in-person team meetings. So I'm pulling a lot of my experience from education and working with kids for so many years. So before you have your in-person meetings, you're going to want to do some prep work. As you go through planning each thing, it's going to be important to make a list of materials, what things you may need prep before, because you don't want to have much downtime, especially with the little ones. They're going to get bored, and then they're not going to want to come back. You also want to over-plan the first few times until you really get to know your group. Coming from experience, nothing's more awkward than sitting there for 5 or 10 minutes with kids after you've gone through everything, finished everything, and then you have nothing planned. That's a really uncomfortable 5 or 10 minutes. So just over-plan, make sure you have things for them to do the whole time. And once we get that lead EDS site going, I'm going to have ideas and activities that you can pull from my resource page for each of the things I'm going to talk about. So one thing you'll want to pre-plan for is icebreakers. These should encourage collaboration among group members and be a segue into participation in a group. These will help build members' comfort with each other, which will foster communication. They really need to feel comfortable in order to open up about their experiences. So these may include playing name games, getting to know you, maybe when they get used to each other, team building activities. I did some social icebreakers last year with my group. The first thing we did was an ice cream social That was a lot of fun. They played some getting to know you activities, and it was right before EDS Awareness Month, so we did some signs for our adult fundraisers that we were doing. We also did a pool party last year, which was great to get the families together so they could get to know each other as well. You might also have a focus activity that you want to plan for. So these are going to be in correlation to whatever your theme or topic is for that meeting. These are going to be things that allow them to create, produce, and reflect on whatever topic you're doing. So these can help lead discussions among members and can be something tangible, such as a family tree, a dream catcher. These activities might vary depending on your age group as well. If you have a group of like 15, 16-year-old boys, they're not going to want to do a dream catcher. So you're going to really have to look at your group and know what activity is going to be good for them to do. Finally, you're going to have take-home activities that members can do at home and in between sessions to continue to work on the topic that you're doing. This is also going to help create dialogue with parents. So this could be journaling, scrapbooking, workbook, maybe handouts for the parents as well. So as you're getting your group meetings started, you're going to want to set the tone for your group. Make sure to give age-appropriate information about EDS. A lot of these participants are going to come in with varying levels of knowledge. So you're going to want to present things in a way that's age-appropriate. Make sure you're open and honest with any questions that they have. If there are sensitive issues such as puberty that come up, make sure you let parents know that you're having those conversations and have your co-leader with you when you have those types of conversations with kids. Again, I'm going to have some resource on this on my resource page on how to have those conversations and what those can look like. With your group, make sure you introduce ground rules. It may be beneficial to have your participants develop these ground rules. I know when I work with kids, they're going to buy into those rules more if they help you develop them. So these are just ideas for ground rules for your group. They may look different depending on the age group you're working with. For example, if you have a group of older teens, they might not need a rule about taking turns talking. They might get that. But if you have younger groups like that are 8 or 9, they might need more help with that. One thing I want to touch on is the confidentiality piece. I know Andrea talked about that earlier, that it's important that that's what's said in the meeting stays in the meeting, because those kids aren't going to have those issues talked about outside the group. The exception of this is going to be issues of safety. If they're talking about suicide, self-harm, if they talk about abuse of any kind, you're going to have to report that to either parents or Child Protective Services, depending on what the issue is. So this is just a general outline on how the meeting can be run. This is going to vary based on the makeup of your group, the size, the age, things like that. So you may have discussion before that focus activity, or maybe that focus activity is going to help lead that discussion. Again, for your older participants, it may be all discussion depending on the topic that you're doing at that time. So the first thing you're going to want to do again is that icebreaker to help form those relationships with the group and with you. It's going to be important for participants to feel comfortable to open up and share. So there may be topics they're not used to talking about with other people. When you're first getting established, the first few meetings, it may be a lot of the getting to know you focus activities that you're doing. Next, the discussions. So these bullet points are ways that you can have open dialogue with your participants. The older teens may be able to be more independent, where you're more of the moderator, making sure they're staying on topic, making sure everyone has a chance to talk. The younger, more shy teens may need you to be the facilitator, where you're asking those open-ended questions. You're going to learn as you go with your kids what you're going to be, if you're going to be more of the moderator or more of the facilitator. In the beginning, though, it's probably going to be better to be that facilitator for them because they're going to be shy and not sure of what to say. In your discussion, make sure everyone has a chance to talk. If someone is dominating the conversation, it may not be that they're meaning to take over. Just watch for that, guide them back on conversation, maybe call on someone else to talk. And also don't force participation. You're going to have a lot of shy participants, so it's going to be making that connection with them to get them to open up. The last thing you're going to want to do is your closing. Thank participants for coming, give information about the next meeting so they know what's coming up, and give them any take-homes that you may have for them. Some further recommendations. Make sure that you create a safe environment for your kiddos. You want to do this by minimizing distractions such as noises or having an overwhelming environment. Make sure to always respect personal boundaries and ask permission before you give hugs. And if someone's commenting on or if you want to comment on someone's experience, make sure you ask them before, because they might not want you to comment. Maybe they just want to say something and don't want you to say anything about it. So make sure you ask permission to comment before talking about someone's experience. Again, with the younger participants who struggle to take turns, you might want to have something like a talking stick so everyone knows who the speaker is. To get this established, it may be beneficial to practice when you first start out. Doing fun things like what's your favorite food, type of music, favorite movies, and these can be tied into your getting to know you activities. If it's possible, have small groups. You don't want to turn anyone away, but you want to be mindful of your group size. If it turns into a large group, an idea you can do is have breakout sessions where you start as a large group but maybe break out into small groups based on age or what they want to talk about. These are going to be easier to manage and make participants feel more comfortable in opening up. So here are some issues that you may have with your kid and teen support group. I know for me, after not having a co-leader, this first point was the hardest, and that's attendance. I don't know that there's a perfect solution for it, but because kids are busy, their schedules are all over the place. No matter if you pick a different date each month, there are kids that won't be able to come. So that's an issue you're going to run into with your group. Depending on how you set up your group, you may have a range of ages. So to accommodate that, again, you might have that separate breakout session with older kids in one group, younger kids in another group, and having that co-leader is really going to help you with that. Siblings can also be an issue depending on their dynamic. There are going to be some siblings that want to have all that time to themselves. They don't want to share that time. Some siblings are going to be fine that their brother or sister is in the same support group with them. You just want to know the dynamic of that family and how to address that. So again, it might be they're in different sessions. Maybe one comes 1 month, one comes another. You are going to talk to parents to know how to address that situation. Again, make sure you have an environment that is safe. Some places may cause anxiety, such as hospital settings, so make sure you choose a neutral ground for them to go to. So how do you provide support between meetings? I know a lot of people have been talking about setting boundaries, and I know I look at things from a school administrator lens with email, texting, phone calls. Those are tricky with teens. I would probably be comfortable emailing because you have record of what's said, so you can go back and say, oh, this is what I said to this person. With texting, there is an app called Remind that school administrators and teachers use to communicate with parents. I know high school teachers use that to communicate with students, but everything, again, is recorded. Nothing can be deleted, so you always have record of what's said with that person. But you're going to want to know what's comfortable for you, and let parents know if you're having communication with their child between meetings as well. And it's not like you have to tell them every time you have communication, just so that they're aware that you're talking to their child between meetings. Just make sure to keep things fun. Participants are going to want to come back if things are exciting. So in summary, have a co-leader. They will save you. Make sure to come up with a plan for a year, whether it's social events, in-person meetings, a combination of both. Pre-plan your activities for the year. That way you don't have headaches down the road if things start getting rough. Set your ground rules. Make sure everyone's on the same page. Have a safe environment. Beware of potential barriers, but more importantly, have fun and make it a great experience for the kids, because it's going to be fulfilling for you as well. All right. Thank you guys for your time, and have a great afternoon.